Of all the Dutch amusement parks, Walibi Holland is the coaster capital, and even more with the new coasters underway in the coming years. Currently, this place has one roller coaster for the entire family and then just hardcore stuff after that.
Don't be a pussy.
Because this place knows that balancing is important. It's a flat out awesome collection of both new and old roller coasters. So let's count them down in this top 7 roller coasters at Walibi Holland.
Oh boy, here we go.
At number 7, Condor. If this ride doesn't want to make you buy that rope, I don't know what ride will. It's the world's first ever Vekoma SLC, and even though it recently got retrofitted with new vest restraints, it still manages to be the worst SLC I've done easily. Headbanging is unnecessary for this torture, because even though you don't hit your head on things, you're still thrown around violently, getting your body beat up, and getting the baddest of bad headaches of any ride. The shakiness even made my teeth clash together, and for a brief moment I thought I'd broken a tooth. It's a straight up horrific piece of torture. I will say though that the color scheme and the theme is pretty dope. I especially have a weakness for this particular statue, and I think it's a great vibe that this gives off-ride. But when it comes to riding it. Burn it with fire. Number 6 is Draco. This is currently the one family-friendly coaster, and it's a classic Zierat Tivoli coaster with the medium layout. There's not a lot going for it other than 2 turns that do provide some laterals, and granted it's still a fun enough ride that definitely has a classic feel, which is one of my favorite things about these Zierat Tivoli coasters. The feel and vibrations from them are really nostalgic, and it's certainly better than some other kiddie coasters I know as well. But outside of a few interesting turns and a solid drop, there's not much to say about this ride at all. Number 5 is Speed of Sound. This was my first ever Vekoma boomerang, and I've now ridden yet another one, and I can confirm that I think these are pretty darn good rides. The first thing that really stands out to you are the colors, which look really great along with some awesome theming. Of course you have the tunnel itself, but you also have some awesome theming in the station. This ride also has the vest restraints, and with all of those things mixed together, this is a good contender for one of the best boomerangs in the world, especially considering the onboard audio. When you're in that tunnel, the audio builds up the hype until when you finally get released and the drop hits, and it's synchronized to the rest of the ride as well. That onboard audio creates a fun onboard party, and it's a really cool experience. It's also, of course, a super forceful layout. The backwards loop especially is truly crushing, so my problem with boomerangs and the reason this isn't any higher doesn't have anything to do with it being a bad ride, really. For me, it's really just the fact that I don't personally like going backwards on rides at all, and well, this does it for literally 50% of the ride.
This is bullshit.
But otherwise, fantastic ride. Number 4 is Express Platform 13. Welcome to Naked Rock and Roller Coaster, or should I say its skeleton, as the outdoors portion has somehow lost its building. That part is purely about forces, of which there is no shortage. In fact, I would say this is an underrated layout. The inversions themselves are really forceful and also provide a bit of sideways hang time. There are plenty of forces in many of the valleys and some laterals in the turns as well, and you got a final bunny hole with some strong floater airtime.
That's pretty good.
But don't worry, there's plenty of theming to go around too. This is the best themed coaster at the park. Puts poor little Draco to shame. The queue line is almost a scare maze and a complete experience in itself. It is easily one of the best queue lines I've ever done for any ride. And of course you have the launch sequence, which is awesome with amazing lights and a good build up to the launch itself, which is also quite punchy itself. I had a grand old time on this ride, on both this and the French version.
Excuse me?
Number 3 is Lost Gravity. Don't worry, this isn't some gargantuan hornet set out to write your new nightmares. This is the world's first Mach Rides Big Dipper ride, a monstrosity with the best intentions. While it may look like an SNSL Loco had happy times with an Intamin wing coaster, and this is what came out of it, it's a great thrill coaster that defines the word wacky. It's got a lot of great airtime moments of both strong floater, flagector, and ejector airtime as well. It's even got more airtime moments than Goliath, so suck on that, big boy. It has a super whippy drop, some funky and fun inversions with laterals and hang time, other odd moments as well, a really cool concept for the theme that you really can't find anywhere else. I mean, this is the strangest apocalypse I've ever seen, and it's just a really complete thrill ride that I could see higher on the list as well too, depending on your taste, so GG.
GG's, bro.
Number 2 is Goliath. The classic standout at the park. This is a defining Intamin mega coaster, taking up a shitload of space with hills and turns. Unlike what I hear many say, I think Goliath has a pretty complete layout for the most part. True, the twisted hills are somewhat underwhelming, to put it nicely.
I get it.
But the helices pack much more of a punch than I think they get recognition for. These are the best moments of speed mixed with positive forces in the park, and the front row hits different. different. But who am I kidding? Let's talk about some airtime. Firstly, I should say that I absolutely think the airtime is best up front, especially on that big old camelback, which has amazing ejector airtime all the way through. Not to mention the Finding Bunny Hills, which is just a rapid-fire carnage of airtime. You'll even find some fun weightlessness and laterals in the Stengel Dive. Goliath is basically just intensity along a wonderful journey, and that's what I really like about this ride. It's a really thrilling coaster that also feels grand and fast, and thank God they painted it. That old color scheme gave me nightmares. Oh god. Numero uno is Untamed. Let's be honest. If this isn't your number one, you have weak thighs. Or an actual good and personal reason, but that's not as funny.
I don't think it's funny.
After only 6 rides on this thing, I got the achievement of carrying bruises on my legs for a solid 5 days afterwards. Truly astounding, because this thing has violent airtime, and plenty of it, oh boy. Untamed by far has the strongest airtime I've ever experienced on any ride. I don't know what -3 Gs feel like, but this is my guess. You'll be thrown aggressively up into the lap bar nearly 20 times on this ride, and that doesn't go without also whipping you around a few times too. It's just an absolute frenzy of airtime on this ride. It's rapid fire, there's absolutely no break in between it, basically beating up your legs in the best way possible. So much airtime. Oh, and did I mention the inversions? It has 5, and they're all amazing. My favorite being the double inverting stall, or as I like to call it, the zero G roll that changed its mind about 270 degrees in. Anyway, this is my favorite coaster of all time. It's insanely violent, intense, and by all means, a hell of a lot of fun. I couldn't believe this ride, and I'm now convinced that it has a chance of being the world's best RMC, and that comes from a guy that's only ridden 2, so you know that I know what I'm talking about, am I right? Consensus is ride this bitch. Do it! Thank you for watching. That was my ranking of the 7 roller coasters in Walibi Holland, which will soon be 10 basically, and I cannot wait to return here someday. I mean, coming back here to get a new Zamperla crit and dueling fucking raptors, let's go! Let me know what you think about the coasters in this park, your ranking, what do you think of my ranking, which is pretty basic now that I think about it, and otherwise, bye!